I've worked with SDRs like 3 years now, I think. And I've seen like even in my time as a manager, I've managed SDRs that I like they were like kind of like when I say like natural, it's like they already had that mindset and they already had
Mm.
that like thick skin built on their bodies and they were like rejection. What is that? Like or they got rejected and they go call back and say like, hey, I think like something happened with the call, must be my internet. So can we continue? Like that, like they were
Such
super
a good
bold and
line.
I was like, wow, like yeah. But um I wouldn't say like it's a problem, but the thing with them, the issue was like they would take that for granted and say like I'm great, I'm awesome at it. Don't give me
Mm.
feedback, like like and if you would listen to a call and saying like, hey, actually you could have done this better, they would be like, what are you talking about? I'm awesome. And
Mm.
then eventually they will start like like yes hitting quota, and then you would see like a lower trend in there and their volume will down and they would be in a slump. And I think when you're not that self-aware, it's when you kind of like get in those like ugly nasty slumps and you're like you can't get out of the hole because it's like I can't, but
Yeah,
it's not like
because
you
you
can't,
can't
it's
see
just
it.
like exactly.
You're not if you're not open to that feedback, if you're not looking for it, or if you're not looking for the feedback, or if you're not open to it, like other people are telling you things, but you're hearing the reality, but you're like, no, that's not right. And then you sit there and you're like, why do I suck at this? Like, and it's
Exactly.
such a weird. I have been there too recently, not for cold calling, but other things where I'm like, no, no,
Yeah.
I'm really good at this. And other people are kind of dropping hints and you're not really missing it. And so unless you're like radically open to this feedback and like, hey, I'm just here to try and get better, then it's really
Yeah.
hard to, it's really easy to miss that feedback.
Yeah.
And so
Right.
we're talking SDR mindset. So the first piece for you is like, it sounds like, don't quit in your first week because everybody sucks.
Yeah. Also,
Next piece is open to feedback, looking for feedback, seeking out feedback. Is that the right way of capturing
yeah,
that?
and self-awareness, like that is important. Like the best SDRs that we've had in predictable revenue, they're like incredibly self-aware. And we've had SDRs that come here and they struggle at the beginning, but they are like always looking for feedback. And like I think like how coachable you are, it's also like important on that, and being open to listen. Like when you look for feedback, you don't expect anyone to say like, what are you talking about? You're great. Like this call was awesome. You're looking, and if you listen to that, you would want to dig further and say like, tell me like the bad things. Like be critical
Mm-hmm.
with me. I want to learn. I
I'm looking
personally
for
hate when
feedback, not
people
praise.
exactly. I personally hate it when people say like, no, you're doing great. It's like, no, I know I'm not. Tell me something. Like, don't be afraid to hurt my feelings. You won't.
Yeah,
So, like, when you look for feedback, just expect that feedback. Look for the harsh feedback. That will get you there. That will make you better. It might hurt at the
totally.
beginning. It will be like, oh man, but then you will be like, that won't happen again, and I'll learn from it, and you'll be better. So,
And I think it makes it easier when you're seeking it out because you're like, hey, how can I get better at this? It's not one thing that I think people frame up the feedback. They frame up feedback as criticism. They're like, hey, I got one piece of criticism. And criticism has like an implication that you did something wrong or you did something bad. Whereas I think feedback can be shaped and slanted in a way of like, here's what you could do better next time, because there's going to be a next time. And I think that's one thing. Like there's a ton about, I read a great book called Nonviolent Feedback, which is really, really helpful for if you are a jerk like me who struggles to say things kindly when you have these kind intentions, but it just comes out in like the meanest possible way. That's a really helpful book to be less of an asshole. It should say how to be less of an asshole. If your name is Colin Stewart, you should read this book. Um, that was a helpful one. Uh, but from the SDR perspective, thinking about it as something that you're seeking out. You are a professional athlete. You're trying to work on your shot, your pass, your plays, and you're not going to be perfect and you're going to need to get better. And so how can we get a little bit better?
yeah, correct. Just embrace that and learn from it. And learn from
Mm-hmm.
others. Honestly, don't wait until you make the mistake to learn from it, you can always learn from your peers. And I would do that. Like we had like the sessions on Thursdays that were like our whole reviews, and I would listen. And if someone would say something that I was saying or not doing right, I would be like, oh my gosh, not gonna be me next week. So like, okay. So I think that is also important if you're working as a team, and also take advantage of it, because I think like no one will understand an SDR just like another SDR. So peer support is good on that end. Like you'll speak the same language, and I think nowadays there are more not self-awareness, but more like awareness of the SDRs out there. Like I've seen like pages of SDRs on Instagram or on TikTok as well, and they post memes that you can relate to. So I think that also you have to take that as well with a little bit of humor to make it more digestible day to day. And I'm not saying it's an awful job. I mean, it's just like, it is not an awful job. It's actually entertaining when you manage to do it and you're like in that stage, like, oh, I got this. So yeah,